All right, welcome everyone. We're gonna wait just a couple minutes and let some people enter, and then we'll begin. For anyone just entering now, welcome. We're gonna get started in just about a minute or two. All right, we're at a couple minutes after, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Just give me a minute. All right, so welcome to the Skill Exchange After Party. It's the first ever Mega-WUG, and we have attendees from all over the country, from all different WUG chapters. So it's your pit stop for the real scoop on the skill exchange sessions. So whether you're just starting with your morning coffee or it's lunchtime, welcome, and we're happy to have you here. My name is Becky Barris, and I'm the Workfront technical lead at Qualcomm and the system administrator of marketing. I currently live in San Diego, and I lead the WUG SoCal chapter. We have a full agenda for today, so we'll spend about like 10 minutes or so doing intros and housekeeping, and then 40 minutes worth of questions for our amazing panelists today. And then about 10 minutes at the end, we'd love to hear from you with your questions. If we don't answer all of the questions in the chat, then we'll be sure to follow up on Experience League after. And everyone will be muted during the event for noise purposes, but the chat is wide open for questions, particularly the Q&A as well. So if you have questions for our panelists, please put them in the Q&A section, not in the chat, because that's where we'll be checking. And if you do want to speak at the end too on the microphone in the last 10 minutes with the Q&A, then you could just click the More button on the bottom and then raise your hand and we'll take you off mute. So starting with a few housekeeping items, to ensure that the Adobe user groups stay user-focused and a safe space for members, we ask that there's no self-promotion or selling of any kind. Also, I wanted to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded too. And we ask that if anybody says any use cases are mentioned or shares any information, that none of that is shared outside of here without that person's consent. Now, if you're not okay with the event being recorded, feel free to watch at a later time. Speaking of recordings, these are the skill exchange sessions that happened last month in August. So we had a great lineup and the recordings are available now. So you can scan the QR code or go to the link listed below and you can feel free to watch any of them, but there's many great ones that we'll cover today and many of our WUGs, our very own WUG leaders we're speaking to. And I know that many of you are part of a Workfront user group chapter already, but sorry about that. I know many of you are part of a Workfront user group chapter. So this is just a link for if you'd like to join your nearest local chapter. You'd want to press join to make sure that you get notifications. We also have a few exciting upcoming events. So there's one in Boston happening on September 15th and an in-person one on the 17th. And then there's also the Workfront Wizards Tips and Tricks Exchange on the 26th. And Alicia, who is co-moderating with me today, who also works at Qualcomm, will give you a little more information about the Boston event. She's the leader of the Boston chapter.
Great, thank you. As Becky mentioned, I'm Alicia Huntington. I work with Becky at Qualcomm. I lead brand operations, and I'm co-moderator of the Boston WUG group, as she mentioned. And just as a reminder for anybody who isn't yet part of the Boston chapter, if you're on the line or if you are part of it, we do have a virtual event coming up on Monday, the 15th. We're going to be doing a show and tell of Workfront use cases. And then on 17th, we're doing our first in-person event. So be sure to register and join if you are in the area. And now we would like to introduce our panelists. So if you could all please tell us your name, what company you work for, and how long you've been working with Workfront. Amanda, we're going to start with you.
Unmuting is important. My name's Amanda Grodegut. I'm the staff program manager and Workfront admin at ATL Technology, and I've been using the software since 2017. I'm also the co-leader of the Utah WUG.
Great. Joaquin?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Joaquin Avina. I am also a co-leader of the Colorado Mountain Region chapter, and I am a Workfront implementation consultant with Insight Global, and I've been working with the tool for about 7 years now.
Awesome. And Kirsten?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kirsten Collins. I am the co-leader for the Ohio user group, so hopefully you attended our recent event. I am the marketing operations tech manager at DSW, and we have been using the tool for 7 years.
And last but not least, we have Jody.
Hi, I'm Jody Coroner. I'm the co-leader along with Monique Evans of the DMV WUG chapter, which includes the Metro DC area, Maryland, and Virginia. I've been a senior marketing project manager and Workfront system administrator at Unum for almost 5 years, and have been using Workfront for about 8 years now. I have over 20 years of experience in marketing, project and process management, and implementing marketing project management systems. So.
Wow, that's quite a panel that we have, representation from all over the country and all the WUG chapters. So thank you guys so much for being here. If anyone would like to keep the conversation going after the event, then join us on Experience League, and we will have all of your questions there and some links to the sessions and other materials too. All right, so now I'd love to get started here. Just give me one moment. All right, so just going over, in August, we had the skill exchange happen on the 21st, and it featured sessions from the Adobe team and expert speakers on various topics like AI, approvals, and creative workflow integrations. And we even had many of our very own WUG members speaking, and they did an excellent job. And we know how much work goes into a presentation, right, Alicia?
Yes, it is a ton of work, but I really do feel like you and I are in our presentation era right now.
Definitely, same here. Some of the featured speakers who were WUGs, who are WUG chapter leaders, were Monique Evans on best practices for user management, Kurt Jones on using Fusion for automating user permissions, Scott Moores on AI features. And let me just say, I thought the event was very smooth. It was very well put on and super engaging topics. And one thing I really liked is how the Adobe team partnered with speakers for sessions too. That was great. And I think the hosts did an excellent job too, Kristen and Cynthia. They made the questions very conversational.
I agree. I think it's a lot better when it's more of a conversation and less of people just kind of speaking at you. I think it's a lot more engaging for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, so first let's dive into the opening keynote. Paul and Brooke from the Adobe product team did a great job highlighting the future forward creative review process with native Gen Studio AI reviewer, creative brief ingestion, and upcoming features like being able to save Photoshop files directly into Workfront. So, first question, let's start with Joaquin. Do you think that these new features resonate with your company's creative journey and where you're headed?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the key things I think we heard throughout all of the skill exchange was sort of trying to eliminate manual processes or redundancy and anything that we can do to kind of speed up, and you probably hear this a lot in your companies, is time to market, then that is only going to be a benefit throughout that whole end-to-end cycle that you have in your marketing strategy. And so if we can do derivatives through like a Gen I Studio, like if we build a web banner and now we want to have a Facebook and an Instagram version of this, we can just press a button now and it'll do it for you. We have the creative brief ingestion, which they're talking about, which most people do a lot of their inputs on an Excel spreadsheet or on a PowerPoint. And so if we can build that into a process where we could gather that information and put it into a request with custom fields, it's only going to speed up that process better and eliminate questions and concerns about missing information. And certainly every creative would love to be able to work directly in their work management tool rather than having to jump from one creative suite application and another and having to kind of switch in and out of their web browsers. So again, I think that just the minusing the clicks that they do throughout the day is probably going to help them kind of achieve what they want to throughout that life cycle.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you that it'll really speed up and make the creative production process much easier. But speaking of upcoming features, AI is a super hot topic right now.
Yes, it really is. And as you and I both know from personal experience, we've had to jump through a lot of hoops getting AI into our organization, haven't we, Becky?
Yeah, it was definitely a process, especially being at a large company like Qualcomm. Now, this might not be the case for everyone, but we had to get the AI rider or data processing agreement to enable AI functionality. And then we had to do a couple internal things that our company requires, like fill out an ISRP for security, get approval from our internal company AI council. And then we had to ensure that we were on global admin console system and that Adobe activated the unified shell.
So posing the group to the question here, do you think that the AI features such as AI Assistant, Catch Me Up, Smart Filters, do you all think that it's worth the steps that you have to take to get to the features? Amanda, I'd love to get your take on this.
Yeah, I think this is a super important conversation that many companies are having right now. I work in the medical device manufacturing space. So for us, it's super critical that we implement AI the right way. My company is working through some governance and making sure that we implement it in the most appropriate way so that our company is functioning in an optimal way. During the sessions, Carrie Wolf shared a phrase that I absolutely loved, that we can automate away the mundane. I think the AI functionality like Catch Me Up, AI Assistant, those can help take some of the manual and repetitive work off the shoulders of our team members and really allow them to focus on bringing their personal magic to the table. I'm particularly excited about the functionality and kind of the powerhouse insights that the project health tools offer, and I can't wait to incorporate that in my company.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I really do think that it's kind of a case by case basis and how AI is integrated into everybody's organization and what the outlook each person's organization has on AI in general.
Agreed.
Same. I think it'll really speed up a lot of processes as well. Yeah. So next, let's move on to Monique's session. Her session was great, and I love the Oprah impression as well. The offboarding user management and system admin maintenance blueprints that she suggested are very helpful as well. So Jody, let's start with you on this one. How are you or your other system admins managing internal and external users at your companies? Are you using a custom form? Is most of the work manual?
So first off, I have to say that I almost fell out of my chair when Monique said that she has 7,600 users. We have a fraction of that, less than 500 users, and about 25% of those are full standard licenses. Our largest group using Workfront outside of marketing is legal and compliance. We do use Workfront for tracking and audit purposes. We don't currently have external users, but and I'm still exploring blueprints and how they can help us, but we do use job roles, groups, and teams to organize our users. One of the things that I'm looking forward to upcoming is that we've been looking at our ways of working, and we'll be reorganizing our groups and teams in the coming months. So our teams are currently organized by functionality, and we'll be switching to being organized by our marketing programs. So we'll be spending quite a bit of time tweaking job roles, creating new groups and teams, and our current use of groups and teams will make that much easier to do.
I agree. Having it makes it much easier when it comes to sharing objects. Joaquin, I want to hear from you on this one too.
Yeah, and I think you touched on a really great point. If you look at your governance for how you want to build Workfront, it may be important for you to kind of segregate some of the objects that are in that system so that outside vendors only see what they're supposed to see. You might have a legal and compliance team that only needs to see certain reviews and or files. And so having outlined that by building a good system of kind of managing companies, groups, and teams, all of those kind of things really benefit the overall structure of your system. And of course, forms just help leverage some of that data. So you can quick reference, you can report against all of that kind of stuff, make quick edits to users based upon that connection to a group or a company. And certainly, if anybody has ever experienced a company reorg, they know exactly how numbing and eye-watering updating all of your users can be. So if you can find some way to make that process simpler for you, by all means do it, because it's only going to make your life a lot easier down the road.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And there's been times where I've been so thankful that I organized the companies and users into groups and teams up front, just because I needed to pull certain reports and data later on. So it really helped pull that data. Okay, so moving along to Kurt's session now on automated user accounts and permissions via Fusion. This was an excellent session and definitely something that resonated with me personally. I'd like to implement it right away because it's super helpful in addition to using Microsoft Azure to adjust access levels. Adding users into Workfront manually is not scalable if you have a ton of users. And Kurt said they went from 22 minutes to 60 seconds in time savings by just implementing the automated user permission Fusion scenario. So given the time savings, is this worth prioritizing on your roadmap? And do you find that it could be something doable right away? Or would you need a Fusion resource for help on this? Kirsten, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, thanks. So if you didn't watch Kurt's session, highly recommend it. Personally, I'm the Fusion builder on my team, so it's definitely something I want to prioritize at some point on our roadmap. Anytime you can save that amount of minutes that Kurt saved is huge as an admin, so you can do other things and not focus on user management as heavily. But it will also add, if you don't have Fusion, I would highly recommend taking Kurt's video and use case back to your leadership team just to show, hey, they have one workflow saving us 21 minutes. I mean, right there, that's money. So if you're looking at Fusion and you're trying to find use cases, take Kurt's. It's huge. Highly recommend Fusion across the board. If you can get it, it's well worth your time.
Completely agree. I'm definitely making that case now where I would love to implement a lot more Fusion scenarios just because it will save so much time and really be a game changer. All right, now let's hear from you, Joaquin.
Yeah, so I've had the pleasure to work with Kurt, and if you've ever sat in a room with him, that guy just thinks through problems all the time. And so whatever he's trying to do to solve a problem, he will try to do it. He'll break things, he'll try things, and it's so great to see that energy in him. And I agree. anything you can do to help facilitate those mundane, repetitive tasks within Workfront is really going to save you a lot of time to actually do maybe the fun things you do. You might be a geek about text mode. You might be a geek about organizing your system in other ways. And so that just frees up that time for you to do that. And of course, again, when I go back to reorg, if you're connected into like a Workday system or some other HR system, you can actually use the API call from Fusion to reorganize your entire user system. There might be some quirks, like you might have to kind of push some things and partition it off that you don't want to necessarily mess with, but it's definitely going to save you some time on that. And I totally agree with Kirsten about making a use case to your company. The value you'll be able to get back on Fusion is only going to show itself again in the returns, especially when it comes to data migration and mining. All of that information will save everyone a lot of trouble. Your data analytics team is going to love you. Your project managers are going to love you. Your marketing operations is going to love you. So all of those people can be your cheerleaders for Fusion. And I would suggest, kind of starting to have that conversation with them now in order to get it into the system.
I completely agree. Yeah, it's such a game changer. And I'm curious if in the future, if AI will make it even easier to use as well, too, just for like the combination of AI and Fusion. Amanda, what are your thoughts on this?
I was super excited to listen to Kurt's explanations. My company is also looking at Workday, so the knowledge that people are already very successful and they can quantify how much improvement is possible is a game changer. I love the example that he set, and I'm absolutely going to steal some of his ideas because I want to advocate for incorporating Fusion within my instance. And his approach has given me a beautiful blueprint of how I can show that value to my company.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's so important and it would bring such a time savings, that's for sure.
Speaking of saving time, approvals in Workfront have definitely increased the ability for us to be more efficient and streamline all of our processes. Joaquin, which is your organization using more of, proof approvals or document approvals? And do you feel that the new unified approvals and new proof features that are going to use Frame.io are going to address the biggest challenges that we have with approvals?
Yeah, so this is going to sound like a cop-out answer, but we actually use both. And really the point is you sort of have to determine how you're actually using your review process. So for example, if it's just a quick review, maybe you're going into a live document like a Word document, Excel spreadsheet, document approval is probably your best bet because you don't have to put in a lot of information. You can do edits in line right there. And you just have to ask then the reviewer to just make an okay on that document that they've gone there and made edits for you. Now, if you're doing something a little bit more creative, like you're looking at a website or a document, and you actually need to mark that document up and say, hey, can you change this color to this, or this headline needs to change to that, then you're probably going to look at proof to be your better sort of way of doing that proof approval or review of that document. And yes, I think all the things that AI will help bring to that process, like having a brand review do the review for you without having to have an actual person look at it, saves a bunch of time. And I'm sure everyone has felt the kind of tension of a review process and how that can sometimes be a bottleneck for a lot of companies. If we can get some of those review processes out, like an LNC review where we've trained up the AI to look for very specific things and measured that against the response. So maybe we say it's 90% accurate, we're going to move this forward. If it's 75%, then maybe we bring a human in to take a look at it. And if it's less than that, then we're going to kind of cancel it out altogether and ask the person to resubmit it. So all of that stuff, again, will help just within sort of that process and speed up the time that it takes to kind of go from front end to back end of that request asset creation or that document creation. So again, I know I sound like a broken record right now, but whatever we can do to speed up is really going to be a benefit. Of course, obviously there's training that has to go into it, and we have to be a little bit kind of thorough in what our understanding is of our own internal workflows and processes so that our expectations align to what the tool is doing for us.
Definitely. Yeah. And that was a Mika session that was a really good one that touched on this topic. And I think that anytime you can speed up approvals, especially when most things are due yesterday, is super helpful. In fact, one of our biggest challenges is that our teams like PR and comms, they need to be able to approve documents immediately on their phones on the mobile app. So with Frame coming, there's a mobile app where it'll be available as soon as October potentially, where you can make decisions on your phone right on the mobile app, and then for Android in 2026. So that's super exciting. Of course, not having it right now has presented some adoption challenges with that team.
Yeah, adoption challenges, the change management is definitely a struggle that we have faced, and I think it's probably one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people here face. In Daniel Clark's session, he touched upon this actually, noting that change is always hard for people. What do we all feel is the biggest struggle with user adoption? Amanda, I'd love to hear what you think about this.
So I think anything new can make a user nervous. Nobody wants to do something wrong. Nobody wants to spend so much time trying to understand this new thing that other things fall behind. I think a key element in adoption has to be making the value visible, help them really see the why.
Yeah.
And once people understand that why, it's so much easier to get them on board. I think training and solid process control governance, I think those are also important keys that cannot be forgotten.
Yes, definitely. Kirsten, how has change management impacted your org?
Yeah, so we're pretty intentional over here. So when we started Workfront, we already knew to get our users bought in, we needed concrete training. We have everything laid out in process documents. One thing that we do heavily is process updates. So those really explain why we're making a change. We have screenshots. We're giving that full context as to what's happening and what teams are impacted. And I don't care if it's like a field change or a big process update, we're doing that for everything. So it's consistent across the board. So when users get those emails, they know, hey, I got to pay attention to this. I can't just ignore something that we are sending on our end. I will say, as another added layer of support, we do bi-weekly open doors. So I have a block of time. I sit there on a call. I don't care if you hop on or hop off. It's really meant for you to say, hey, I'm giving you that support. You come to me with your problems so we can get you what you need quickly and you're not struggling at the end of the day. And as much as possible, if you have a big change that you're making, or it's like, hey, we're trying to get some feedback, people won't tell you. So we like to do pre and post surveys when we need to make sure, hey, we got their feelings up front. We've got their feelings now. Once we've done something, are we making the right move? Do we need to adjust something so that we don't have this constant fear, but we also want to have really good adoption with our users. So as much as possible, chat with your teams. They will tell you. You just kind of have to put a little bit of effort in to get that from them. But like I said, we've had hardly any change issues over here because we've done all these things up front to make it easy for our users.
That's so great. I think being proactive is really a big key, because then if it's like you're poking somebody like, hey, give me your feedback, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, let me tell you what I'm thinking. So I think that's really great. Jody, I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest hurdles that I found with getting people to adopt a new tool is that it feels like it's extra work. And to be honest, it absolutely is. You've got all this work that you're still expected to complete while you're learning this new tool. And it's like building an airplane while you're flying it. So I think it's while you continue to highlight the benefits and show them what they will get out of this, it's very important to acknowledge that up front, that it will be, a little bit of some growing pains. Oddly enough, I often see that some of the strongest skeptics end up being the biggest advocates once they see the value, which is really gratifying to see.
I 100% agree with that. I see that all the time. It's like people are afraid, but then once they learn it, they're like, oh my gosh, this really is going to save me time. And it's like, we're trying to just be like, yes, we swear we're trying to make your lives easier. Like, just believe us.
Yeah, you especially know with like the surveys recently that you've sent out, and yeah, I completely agree. It's important to get that feedback so that you can optimize.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so now let's switch gears and talk to Adam Driggs' session. That's next, and it was on Workfront and AEM, Creative Workflows. This session was super interesting, and I completely agree with him that it really opens up the door to huge expansion. And that was some good advice, not to be shy of integrations. We're doing a lot of that right now, actually. We're setting up the content supply chain integrations at Qualcomm, and it's a big process that comes with many challenges in the fine details between managing users and between two systems or multiple systems and organizing all the assets, as Alicia knows, in terms of use, talent. So, Joaquin, I'm going to pick on you again. I know I'm picking on you a lot today, but has your organization started implementing content supply chain yet with Workfront and AEM integrations? And do you believe that it's scalable and sustainable?
Yeah, so we're kind of like you guys. We're sort of at the forefront of trying to implement it and really outline the strategy of what we need and how it will work. And I believe those conversations are important to understand people's processes when we have true handoffs of those kind of things within a workflow. And to be honest, yes, I believe it is scalable. I think it is something that if we sort of, for lack of better words, get our ducks in a row, then we can see the advantage of all the different touch points. And nowadays, I don't think there is a campaign or a product launch where we don't have multifunctional teams or cross-functional teams working on something. So in order to be able to work smoothly and collaboratively in those experiences, we have to find those tools or leverage the tool to integrate some of either already Adobe features that we have out there and products that are out there, or our own custom proprietary items that the company may have built already, and we can tap into those as well. And so if we have strategized and we put it all into place, then yes, from start to finish, we can see a lot of integration, a lot of benefits from these sort of tools. And of course, AI is probably not going to go away. So anytime AI is introduced at any point as well, it's a good idea to at least look at it, to have the conversation and see what can we do to help speed this up or make our lives easier so that there's not a lot of guesswork in everything that we do.
Agree. Yeah, there's so much opportunity with this, with integrating, and much of it starts with Workfront too. I mean, between all creative tool integrations and then being able to publish your assets in AEM or on a portal, or other tools. So I foresee it being a game changer too once it's all said and done.
I love talking about content supply chain. It's definitely something that we're trying to implement in our organization. And as Becky and I both know, there's a ton of governance needed to implement a content supply chain. Danielle actually took us through governance and the Center of Excellence and the importance of it all in her session. Kirsten, what's your best advice for pushing governance in your organization?
Yeah, so first and foremost, you have to have a strong framework. If you don't have that, you're going to fall apart. So, and what do I mean by that? So, when we set up Workfront, we kind of knew, okay, who's doing what in this tool? What responsibility are we giving them? How much access are we giving somebody? Do you want people building reports or do you not? I know our team, we don't let people build anything. It's really very controlled. So figuring all that out, making sure you have documentation figured out, where do you want people to go to get that information? Over the last couple of years, we stood up a really robust SharePoint site for a COE that we needed. As much as possible, get them there. I always send monthly reminders. We have a marketing toolbox email that goes out like, hey, don't forget to go check out these pages. I'm not going to keep reminding you, so we're going to just automate that, in which we do, and it works really well. So just guide your users, make sure that governance is pretty set in stone. It will help you in the long run to have a very successful tool without people panicking every day and who does what in this system. Like I said, the framework is everything to get your tool to be successful in your company.
Awesome. Jody, over to you. What's your best advice here?
Yeah, so I will train users on the importance of thoroughly documenting all aspects of a project in Workfront, including any relevant details, any decisions, or any changes that will happen. I strongly encourage, or as I like to say, remind NAG users to consistently communicate through the project updates, include comments, and to tag all of the appropriate team members. This will ensure transparency and alignment on the project and will provide a point of reference for all discussion and decisions that we have made. We all have so much going on, and there's so many projects that we are working on at the same time that this is incredibly helpful if a question comes up, such as how and why a critical decision was made and who made it. So we also have recently started recording and transcribing project kickoffs and any other relevant meetings, attaching the transcript to the project or running the transcript through AI to get a summary of the meeting and saving that to the project. If there's any kind of communication regarding the project outside of Workfront, I will typically add it to the project, such as saving an email to documents or adding a team screenshot to an update. This approach creates a centralized one-stop shop place to go to with one source of truth where all the team members can easily access any information that they need to complete the work on this project. And additionally, it will maintain a reliable record of the project for historical tracking purposes.
I'm definitely sensing a theme here of communication and documentation. Joaquin, to round us out, I would love to hear your advice too.
Yeah, I mean, Kirsten and Jody made some really great points about sort of the need up front to do the discovery and to really understand how you want to set the system up. And I tend to believe that the work you put up front saves you twice as much time down the road. Everybody knows what it's like to miss a question on a form, and how do we want to interject that into our already working process? And then how do we want to report on all of our legacy items that don't have that information, and what kind of challenge that can be. So of course, figuring all that kind of stuff out is super important. And then I really like what Jody said about that single source of truth. I think we're all trying, as system admins, we're all trying to create a place where this is a single source of truth, whether it's a small for kind of build for like creative teams, or it's for a larger organization that's looking at their larger operating model. And of course, the bigger that we go, we have to start thinking about the enterprise and what they call certain things. So again, if we're talking about something like regions, which I think a lot of people talk about when they're in marketing, is that what does that mean to everybody, and what is sort of the unifying term, and how do we articulate the data that we're pulling from that system so that we understand that. And then what's really nice, obviously, is all the information that we put into Workfront is reportable. And as we are starting to introduce product enhancements to Workfront, like Data Connect, where we can pull that information out and put it into a visualization tool and coalesce that information with maybe other sources, then to be able to like map it correctly so that whatever those other sources are using for those terms are matched up nicely with what we're doing as well. And then of course, we've talked about the kind of the super users or our group admins sort of also being champions of Workfront for us. Those are really going to be the people that help sell that standardization and that governance. They'll be able to look at things and say, hey, when we name a project, it looks like this. If we're working within web ops, it should be like this. And so we build based upon that idea. And again, it only makes it scalable so that we can go up or down if we have to, but mostly we're probably going to go up. And so we can scale in and bring other teams in who might be doing slightly different things, but saying some of the same terminology that we are. So yeah, I think it's really important up front. And it doesn't hurt to have maybe one or two people to be your point of contact for the governance. And maybe they create an AOE for you. Maybe they create a SharePoint site where people can go and kind of give all that information for people to go see.
Yeah, I think it's great advice. And I think, governance is super important, but it's a lot of work up front. But then once you can get it implemented, it's a little bit easier, like to kind of manage it and tweak it as you need to. But it's definitely something that's sometimes a little bit challenging at first. All right. So we are going to wrap up this session with a fun, fast fire round of questions. Since we have panelists from all over the country, we thought it would be fun to ask some rapid this or that type of questions. So to get started, we are going to ask the panelists, do you call them freeways or highways? And I'm going to start. I call them freeways. Now on to Joaquin. Freeways or highways? Go.
Freeways.
All right, Jody.
Highways.
Amanda.
Highways.
Kirsten.
Highways.
Becky.
I actually call them throughways because in New York State, where I'm from, they charge to use the roads, so, and that's what we call them there. Okay, how about the next question? Do you say pop or soda? I say pop, being from Buffalo. Joaquin.
It's soda. I'm from the Midwest.
Jody.
Soda.
Amanda.
The answer is Coke. And the next question had better be asking me what kind. I am from the South.
What kind of Coke? Oh yeah, and that's great. And Kirsten.
Soda.
Alicia, what do you say? Out of pop or soda?
Soda. It's soda.
All right, next question. Adobe tools you and your team are using. So I'd say between the Creative Cloud and Experience Cloud, we're using about 12. Joaquin.
Yeah, I think the same. And more are coming on, so I wouldn't be surprised within the next year if there's even 3 or 4 more that get added.
Definitely. Yeah, and Jody.
Just 4,
Nice.
although we are demoing others.
Ah, good, good. Amanda.
The one and the only Workfront. Really, it's the only tool you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
So true.
Most important of them all, right? Kirsten.
For us, with Creative Cloud, we're using about 8.
Very good. Alicia.
Well, since you thankfully answered for us, we have 12.
Yes, it's a trick question.
All right. Now, city versus nature. I'll go first, and I'm going to say city. Joaquin.
Yeah, so being from Minnesota, it's nature all the way.
Jody.
City 100%.
Yes. Amanda.
City.
Love it. Kirsten.
City.
And Becky.
Nature. Definitely nature. I'm a mountain girl. All right. How about the next one? Reality TV. Love it or hate it? I secretly love it. Joaquin.
Isn't life reality enough? I do not like it.
Some would say yes. Yeah. Amanda.
For the most part, I don't do reality TV.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Jody.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Yeah. Okay. Got a split vote here. And Kirsten.
Love it.
Me too. And Alicia, what do you think?
I am platform specific. I love Netflix reality TV, but that's about it. All right. And final question. East Coast versus West Coast. I'm going to start and say East Coast. Joaquin.
Left coast.
Amanda.
Left Coast just threw me. Is the South an option?
Sure. I will take it. Jody.
Oh, East Coast.
Kirsten.
East Coast.
Becky.
Well, after living on both for a considerable amount of time each, I would have to say the West Coast, in my opinion. All right, well, that wraps up our fast fire round. So thank you so much for all the panelists and all the great answers that you shared. And now we want to hear from people on the call, and we want to look at your questions in the Q&A. And as a reminder, you can add your questions in the chat. I already see we have questions coming in. So you can add more in the chat right now in the Q&A. And if you want to come off mute, then you can click the more button and raise your hand if you'd like to. So go ahead and look at what we have. All right. So one of the first questions that we received is there a good place that a demo of the new AI features are showcased? So this is particularly, I know that they where I get a lot of the information and demos is from my team, like the account team that we work with. They tend to give us access to demos from actually product owners at Adobe. So they tend to show us. That would be one of the best ways. And then there's a lot of webinars that they have every month. I want to say they have a webinar that is showcasing, especially now, the new AI features. So that is where I would start, is those two places, is the webinars, the monthly ones that are linked in Workfront too, and under announcements. They have, well, there's some there if you're, some for system admins and some for everyone. And then also your account team too. But does anyone want to add any other color to that question?
Yeah. So if you're able to get into like any alpha or betas with product, that's a really great way to kind of see like where their head's at, but also you can help to influence. So if you hear any opportunities or see anything in Experience League and you're like, I'm curious, like go try it out. Those meetings are awesome. I've had a lot of fun just hearing what they're trying to do. So if you're trying to have a little sneak peek into where it's kind of going on the roadmap, highly recommend getting into those groups.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I see that actually there's a link too for in the chat too. So thank you for posting that too, Amanda, that there's a link there to watch one of the sessions too on Experience League. All right. I will just go ahead and on to the next question that we received. So how would you present Fusion to all your stakeholders? I want to express the importance of automation and how it saves time, but it's a little tricky getting our budgeting team on board. Any tips or points I can share with them? Now, this is I can relate so much to this. I'll just start by saying that I really want a Fusion developer, and we just because like there's just so much that has come up over the years that we could do, and having that is very convenient too, just to have one that you're working with regularly. So who's familiar with the instance? But I would one thing that I have done is I made a spreadsheet and I listed all the scenarios and all the teams that they would affect, and I have about 70 or so now. And it's like just expressing what the benefit is and how much time it would save too, and then just prioritizing them. So that's one way I presented it, and so I think we'll be getting one soon, luckily. So that worked for me. But what about the others? And if anyone wants to come off mute or say any tips in the chat too.
I will say doing cost breakdowns. So if you have a rough idea of like, hey, I'm going to have 500 emails that go out every month and it's going to save us 10 minutes, just do that quick math. If you even have like a dollar amount tied to something, tied to like maybe this person's supposed to do something and you can take their dollar amount and put it to that, like anything that you can show the ROI quickly, get their heads thinking about it will be very helpful. On the flip side though, if you do have Fusion, I highly recommend doing this, but showing the flip side of the ROI. So like, for example, we've got a process where we run custom automated emails and I built a Workfront dashboard and I can see, hey, we had 50 emails go out and it's 5 minutes per email. Well, our team has to do nothing with that anymore. It's all done through Fusion. So make sure you show both sides to keep them engaged, like why this tool is still important even after you buy it.
Yeah, and I definitely agree that building a use case for it and really outlining your problem statement and always kind of reflecting back on that of all the reasons why will only strengthen that. And the big benefit is the only time you need a human is when you build the scenario. Otherwise, it does it all itself. And that just, again, frees up time for people to do other things. If they don't see the benefit of freeing up hands, then I don't know who you're talking to. But that would be the biggest sell right there, is that it just takes almost nobody to run it. Just somebody maybe with a little bit of knowledge on how to look at a scenario in case it breaks, because sometimes it will hiccup. But if you know exactly what's happening within that scenario, you can just go ahead and solve it. Oftentimes, it's just a glitch within the system. Like it just misread something in the data and you just go, oh, let's just run it again. Nothing's changed. And then voila, it happens. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah. All great points. The next question that we received is from Brittany. So we've noticed that with the external licenses, our external users don't have same managerial access that a standard license does, and they would need it. Do you recommend changing their license to a standard license? So I know that if you're on admin console versus not admin console, some of the license types are different based on like some of that and the packaging, but I like personally at Qualcomm, we have agency partners or externals as an extension of our team, and some of them are project managers. So we do give them full licenses or planner licenses. So I would recommend it if they are an extension of your team to do that. But it depends on the use case. If they're only requesting, then they would only need contributor or requester license. And I'll open up if anyone else wants to comment on this.
Yeah, this is a great question. This comes up a lot because there are a lot of marketing organizations that use outside vendors, whether they're a creative team, they're photographers, do they do CGI for you, those kind of things. And you always want them to be tapped into your projects that you're working on within Workfront. And so the real question I always ask people is, what is the specific need we need these outside external users to be in there? Is it simply it's going to be a pass off, like they're just going to send us files, we see them, we review them? Then I would say no, they don't need to be a planner. But do they need to action actually against the project? Like, do they need to sign off on tasks? Do they need to maybe reassign it to somebody else? Those kind of things. Are they taking full sections of the project? Then yes, maybe we talk about how they look. And then the last part of that is, we do want to, in most cases, want to close the door slightly on what they're able to see. So again, we go back to that groups and teams and companies set up for them so that they're only seeing the projects they need to see. They're not seeing the rest of the system within that. And sometimes it's just simply by creating it by their vendor name. All the projects that we're working with this vendor are in this group or in this team. And so that makes it a little bit easier. But it really is a sort of call at the level of what you want from them. But it can be challenging at sometimes, because also what comes with that is turnover. You work with a vendor, somebody turns over, now you have to like bring somebody in or retrain them into the system. And so oftentimes the more complex that access level is, can be a little bit challenging on the back end when things change.
Yep, great point. Great point there. The next question: for the coming Project Health AI feature, does it matter if you don't fully utilize resource management to get the full benefit? I still think that you can use Project Health without using resource management. I think my biggest concern with Project Health is just that I think a lot of our projects might show bad health because we don't always complete our tasks on time. But I think it's definitely still a really great feature, and you can utilize it without resource management. But I'd love to hear from the others too.
I'm a little nervous not using resource management, but it could be slightly different reasons. I know everyone has different use cases, but certainly that is a hot topic. Like, everyone wants to know that we are moving our projects forward. They're going to hit their deadlines. What are the roadblocks that are happening? How does that affect our overall project health? And so if we can train our AI to understand like what we do with these projects, then yes, it's going to be easy on like a large status report of all the projects that are currently in process, what they look like. Is there anything that we is looking at like a red line where we need to get in there and take a look at it and say, hey, what do we need to do to solve this problem? Yes, I believe that's a good benefit for all of that kind of stuff. And we've also seen, at least I have seen a couple of times now, where I've gone actually into companies that don't have project management, which is also odd to me, but it happens. And so now we're asking people who are probably more likely marketers to sort of kind of lead their own projects. And so again, trying to eliminate some of that daily hands-on processes that they have to look at their project every day to see it will benefit them, because then they can focus on whatever else they need to do other than project management. So yeah.
That's one of the biggest challenges that we have too, is we don't have a project manager on every team. So we do have a lot of people have to take on that responsibility. Just out of curiosity, Joaquin, do you track actual hours too, planned and actual, or no?
So we don't track actual unless that's a requirement, like we're billing back to a client. Then we do have in place a process to do timekeeping and then track those actual hours so that they line up when we kind of balance our books, so to speak. But generally, I use planned hours and durations, or I suggest using planned hours and durations to get a baseline and to audit on a fairly regular basis. I would suggest every 3 months or every quarter to sort of audit to make sure any projects are having project creep in them, that they're starting to expand and get a little bit bloated in certain areas, so that teams can then reevaluate their templates and say, is this still the SLA that we have for a certain project type, like email campaign, for example? If that seems to expand on a pretty frequent basis at a certain point within that project lifecycle, then we probably need to reassess what that looks like in terms of a greater SLA. But I also see it really importantly, and this is another thing that's starting to happen, and I don't know if this is a reaction to the change from from home to back in the office type of thing, but people are really concerned about what people are doing these days. And so it's a good idea to have at least some view of capacity planning for managers who have direct reports, so that they can see, yes, they are literally on 60 hours of work this week because they have a tight deadline. And so they can see that information and then be able to maybe shift or whatever in that process.
I was just going to add, Becky, that we heavily rely on Workfront for resource management. I always have the workload balancer open. We use it to reprioritize, to reassign assignments. It really is one of the more invaluable things about Workfront.
Oh, wow. That's super
Yeah.
interesting here.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna add
just,
really quick too. So
yeah.
back in May, I did an event with the CS team. So we have our own custom resource management we built within Workfront because of our speed of our business and having peaks and valleys in our model. We have to be able to show numbers differently. But I'm really interested in this AI feature because I want to see like, okay, well, we have a project coming in today. It starts tomorrow. We have about 7 days to get it out the door and it's already in our customers' hands. So I'm like, how could that help us potentially with the resourcing piece so we can get assignments done quicker? We do have a full traffic team, so they are end to end. They manage all those projects. They know who's working on it, when it's supposed to get out the door. So really thinking about the speed of your business and like, could AI potentially help you get things done faster? That's kind of where our head's at with that feature coming out. So
Definitely makes me more intrigued to look into that feature more when it comes out, and more excited just hearing that so many of you are using resource management. We have a really small team, and we aren't really utilizing that too much, but definitely worth looking into. Great feedback
Yeah.
on it.
So Becky, in my organization, we are very consistent in using planned hours, durations, resource assignments, or even role assignments if we don't have a resource yet. It helps give that visibility. But we're also doing so much with our resource management that we actually export that data into our data lake, and we are feeding that into Power BI to do some of the analysis. I'm really interested to see how some of these new AI tools help us pivot and keep more of that work contained within Workfront. I don't know how that's going to look yet, but I'm intrigued to see what they come up with in the next few months.
Definitely. That's a really cool integration too. That's something that's on the roadmap. Not in the immediate priorities, but definitely on the roadmap for the Snowflake data lake integration. That's so cool. The next question too, we have time for like one more, so I think this will be the last question. This is the last one in the Q&A. So do we need to hire a Fusion developer to help us fully integrate scenarios within Fusion, or can our project manager learn it and handle that task? I've taken a few courses on it, and I don't feel like I could do everything. I do feel like I could do some like blueprints, but there's looking into some of the more complex ones that we're doing now. We're working with like ACS or Adobe services, and I know that some agencies offer too. So there's multiple partners you can reach out to, or someone on staff too. But I for some of the complex ones, I wasn't able to necessarily get. I think we need somebody, but that's just my opinion, and I'd love to hear from the others too.
I would love a developer, but that's hard to get over here. I have very limited IT resources on my end, so I took on that hat when we got the tool. But I will say, when we first implemented a few workflows, we had a third party build those out. They did some training with me to make sure I fully understood what we were doing and why it was happening a certain way. And then over the last several years, I've gone and done a lot of classes or checked out community to see what's out there. Like, what are people doing with this tool? I'm so thankful for the templates, trying to make those work for myself. And then, of course, ChatGPT is my best friend. So I'm like, hey, get me here close, and then I will go back and tweak it to get where I need. So it's definitely doable, but you've got to be curious and you've got to be able to fail a few times and be like, this is not working. But if you use your resources the right way or reach out to a lot of these amazing Workfront people in the community, you will probably get what you need without having a full-on developer.
That's a great answer. Yeah. Yep, I definitely love to hear, other thoughts on this because yeah, it's challenging but doable, it sounds like. So, and that's great too that you have handled that as well, Kirsten. All right, so we only have 1 minute left. So I just wanted to thank everybody for their time today. Thank you for coming, all the participants and attendees, all the panelists, co-moderator, Alicia. Let's go ahead and continue the conversation on Experience League in the Mega-WUG after party discussion thread. And I recommend taking a moment to watch any sessions that you missed from the skill exchange. And also, I recommend joining your nearest WUG chapter if you haven't already for the latest events. I'll definitely link the conversation on LinkedIn after and post recording as well, the link to the recordings. So thank you everybody so much for your time, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks you.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.